Hey, before we dive into this week's episode, if you've been enjoying the show, I'd love your support. Take just 10 seconds to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps others discover the wisdom and inspiration that I share on the Pivot to Balance podcast. Let's build a community of balance seekers together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to share the love. Now let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Pivot to Balance podcast. I'm your host, AK, and I hope you're doing well. In a world that pulls us in a million different directions and with a billion distractions, finding balance can feel like an ambiguous quest. Join me on this podcast as I try to navigate life's twists and turns with mindfulness, purpose, and grace. In each episode, we will dive into topics like self-care, personal growth, mindset shifts by sharing practical insights, stories, and maybe even interviews. Get ready to pivot, to recalibrate, and find your balance. Follow the Pivot to Balance podcast, and I will see you on the other side. What if I told you that the only person who truly needs to feel and understand your wins, your joys, and your choices is you? Imagine a life where your happiness is not tied to anyone else's opinion or validation. I kind of like that. So today I'm going to talk about how I'm kind of learning this mindset, what has been my biggest lesson in finding peace and joy, because I'm always kind of after peace and joy. So let's get into it. There was recently a moment that just really hit me. I'd poured every ounce of energy into preparing for something that meant the world to me. It was this huge opportunity with a company I'd been admiring for years. I was all in. Late nights, constant research, refining every little detail. I actually convinced myself that this was it. And I didn't make it. Just like that, it was just over. And I was crushed. But it's not because I didn't get it. I mean, sure, but I felt like it was all my effort, all those hours, it just did not matter anymore. And for days, actually, I would say like a day or two, I spiraled. I was questioning everything. I was like, was it wrong for me to even dream something this big? Did I even have what it takes to land that? And honestly, I felt embarrassed. Like I had to explain myself to people in my life that, hey, you know, that thing I told you I was working on, that didn't work out. But I've also been thinking ever since I always sit alone and think about things, and I was replaying the whole thing in my mind. And I had this one thought. I actually loved the process. Like I loved the way that I was so pumped up, the late nights, the brainstorming, the feeling of creating something meaningful, because I did create something very meaningful in the process. It made me feel alive, and I haven't felt that in a long time. And I realized I didn't really need anyone else's validation. I knew what I had done and it was enough. But that thought did not fix everything overnight. It was just like this seed I planted, but it still made me question why, even though I knew that I did a good job, why did I think that, okay, I'm going to unpack this. I honestly thought if I do what I did, that the people would think, wow, she's talented. But that is external validation. Even though I didn't really want that, it was kind of what I was going for. So I asked myself, why am I chasing approval so desperately in the first place? And the thing here is, you know me, I do research. When I have questions, I immediately have to go online and try to find a remedy for that. And I found out the thing is, our brains are kind of wired to want validation from others, because why not? It feels good, right? A compliment, a like on a post, or someone saying you're amazing at this. Those moments light up the reward center in our brain, giving us this dopamine hit, which makes us want it more. But the problem is, it's like eating chocolate. It feels great for a second, but it never lasts. You're always left craving more. I've been trying really hard to quit sugar, but I've only managed to quit chocolate for now. Because every time I have one piece of chocolate, it's like my brain wants more, even though I've given it what it really wants. So what I'm learning is that the real joy, the real fulfillment comes from within. When you know that what you're doing aligns with your values, or it just feels good because it matters to you, that's when it sticks. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's quiet, but it's so much more solid. And that's what I've been working on. Shifting my focus from, will this impress people? Will people like this? To, does this feel right for me? And one of the things I always talk about is gratitude. That's what's been helping me. Every morning, I take a second to reflect not on what went wrong or what I wish I'd done better, but on what made me proud. And sometimes it's tiny stuff like, I actually did my laundry, which if you're following me on Instagram, you know, doing laundry is a big deal to me. I'll always give myself like multiple awards for doing laundry. Or it can even be like, I took a break when I really needed it, or Anusha actually got out of her house today. It sounds so simple, but over time, it starts to change how you see yourself. You start to notice these little wins that don't need anyone else's applause. Another thing that's been huge for me is giving myself permission to let go of outcomes. Trust me, as a control freak who wants to control every single thing, every single moment in her life, that's a very tough one for me, and I still struggle with it. I was literally telling a friend this morning, like, I think I'm going to get into astrology because I want to control everything. I want to know everything that's going to happen in my life. But then I do check astrology, but then sometimes I'm like, there's no way the universe or God is going to give you a blueprint of how your life is going to be. They'll probably be like, here's what you should believe in. And then they might say, I'm going to do something opposite. Or maybe I'll give you 50% of that. I'm not saying you should not believe in these things. Like, sometimes we need that. It's totally fine. Up to you. It's a very personal thing. But I'm trying to focus more on process, on how things make me feel while I'm doing them, instead of getting stuck on whether they'll turn out perfectly or be noticed by others. And it's not easy. Sometimes I catch myself slipping back into old habits. Like I said, I was like, okay, I'm going to do astrology. I'm going to use something to predict my future. I go back to social media even though I know that it makes me feel really bad. I wonder if I'm doing enough. I'm only here. What can I do more? Should I be doing better? But I've started asking myself, anytime I do that, who am I really doing this for? If the answer isn't me, I pause, I step back, and I just take a break. And I think the hardest part of this mindset is that it goes against everything we've been taught. From the time we were kids, we were told to aim for gold stars, grades, trophies, promotions. But the truth is those things only mean something if we decide they do. And when you stop needing the world to clap for you, you kind of free yourself to actually enjoy what you're doing. I'll tell you something about my childhood. When I was in school, I never really cared about grades because I didn't want to study. And I never understood my friends who would always say things like, we have to do this and that's how we get into that university. Why aren't you working as hard as we are? You have to remember, you have to make your parents proud. I was like, all of that sounds good, but I don't want to do it. I don't even know why you're studying or why you want to go to that university, why you want to do the thing you're doing. So the why was very important to me. As I said, control freak who wants to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So what I've realized is we spend most of our lives, like so much of our lives, trying to be seen. Like it's not enough to do something cool. Someone else has to notice it for it to feel real. But the thing is, the feeling is already real. You already know when you've done something that matters. Why do you need someone else to stamp their approval on it for it to count? Honestly, like I said, we've been trained that way. But the good news is you can stop, like literally today. You can decide, I don't need someone else to approve this for me to know it's good. And it's not just me saying this. And you know me, science also talks about it. We're so addicted to validation, and I'll tell you how to fix it. And the thing about our brain, like it's sneaky. Every time someone praises you, it releases dopamine, like we talked about. This is why getting 100 likes on a post feels great until it doesn't. And you're back to wondering why I didn't hit 200. I always ask myself questions like, why am I not promoting my socials as well as I could be doing? I literally have a degree in marketing. I'm literally a marketer, but I never over push my stuff. I never pay for my stuff to be out there. I could literally be asking all of my friends to follow me everywhere, but I don't do that because I believe in reaching the right kind of audience. My friends already know me. They already know the things I'm thinking about. I don't have to ask them to follow me anywhere for that to be seen. Hey, if you listen to this podcast, I think you will also love my newsletter, Elevator Gazette. I talk a lot about elevating your professional and your personal lives. Make sure to subscribe to my newsletter. Go to anushakanan.com/email list, and I'm sure you will love it. Join everyone who is like-minded. And now let's get into the episode. And I feel like that is a loop that I'll get stuck on. If, let's say, one of my friends don't follow me, then I'll be like, why didn't you follow me? Don't you want to support me? That whole cycle to me is toxic. And the key is shifting to intrinsic motivation, that I am doing this because I love it energy. Because when you're driven by something by how something feels to you, not how it looks to others, you actually start to enjoy life more, like genuinely, instead of the extrinsic motivation. So how to start living for you? Here are a few things that have helped me kind of rewire my brain, because it's great to talk about this, but there are going to be moments in life when you feel like, oh my God, what would they think about this? So let's replace that with what feels good for me. The first thing is make a private win list. Start keeping track of things you're proud of, but don't share them with anyone, just for yourself. Not your group chat, not Instagram, no one. This is just for you. It could be you finished writing 30 pages today. It could be you cooked something new. It could be acing a small task at work. Over time, this list becomes a reminder that your wins don't need an audience to matter. Number 2, stop oversharing on purpose. Pick one thing you're working on, a project, a goal, even a hobby, and commit to not posting about it. I know it sounds wild as someone who's posting a lot of her life online, but when you start to remove the pressure to perform for others, you're free to just enjoy the process. Anytime I post something online, it's never in the moment. It's never. It's mostly I've worked on it for a year and a half, and then I'm like, hey, I'm starting this. And I'm not doing that to lie or do anything like that. It's just that you kind of take that whole dopamine from that place when you share it with others. But there are times when you have to do that for researching and understanding, engaging where your audience at. But when you stop oversharing, it's like rediscovering why you loved doing something in the first place. Number 3, reframe comparison. Reframe it. We're all guilty of scrolling and thinking, why am I not doing that? But the next time you catch yourself comparing or thinking, why am I not doing what I should be doing? Ask yourself, do I even want what they have? Or do I just feel like I'm supposed to want it? I have friends who often ask me questions like, hey, we are so proud of you for doing all the things you're doing, but are you sure you want to be doing these things? Like, are you happy doing these things? That's a good reminder. You need to ask yourself that question more often. Because half the time we're chasing stuff that does not even align with who we are, and catching that early on is an absolute game changer. Number 4, do something completely alone. Whether it's going to a movie, taking yourself out for coffee, hiking, do something that's just for you. No selfies, no, hey, guess where I am post, just you living your best life. Because when you start enjoying your own company, it hits differently. You guys know I'm a big advocate for spending time alone. Number 5, practice saying no thanks. This one's tough, especially for me, because I love helping people. I love being a part of anything and literally everything. I love talking to everyone and trying to learn different things. I love getting involved in different things in life. But if someone asks you to do something and your first thought is, I'd rather not do that, but I guess I should, so I'll do it. Yeah, don't do it. Stop saying yes just because you feel like you should. When you say no to things that just don't sit right with you, you're making room for things that do. And the truth is, breaking free from needing external validation is not easy. Your brain's been trained to chase it for years, and the world isn't exactly going to stop handing out trophies and likes. But when you start turning into what feels right for you, when you stop performing and start living, you'll notice this weird thing. Life feels lighter. You feel lighter. So here's a challenge. Pick one thing from this list and actually try it this week. I'm going to recap the list for you. The number 1 thing is make a private win list. Number 2, stop oversharing. Number 3, reframe comparison. Number 4, do something completely alone. Number 5, practice saying no thanks. Whatever it is, commit to doing it just for you with no audience, no expectations. And tell me how it felt. You don't even have to tell me what you did, but just tell me, hey, I tried something you said. I genuinely want to know. So here's the deal. You're already enough. You're more than just enough. You've always been more than just enough. It's just about feeling it now. So let's make that happen. And that's what I got for this week's episode. Go grab yourself a cup of lemon water. Sign up to my newsletter if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.